Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello out there, and welcome to Mondays Beyond the Mic. Y'all know what we do on Mondays. Welcome, welcome. Dr. Sanders,
Oh,
do you want to say welcome to the people?
Good evening, everyone. And for those, we want to say happy belated Mother's Day. So we hope you had a really great Mother's Day. And we know as moms, we deserve all that and then some.
Well said. Don't we have men on here? Don't worry about it. We are coming for y'all in June for Father's Day. So we will not forget y'all out there. So welcome to Mondays Beyond the Mic. I am Pache Felton, and that is
Dr. Elaine M. Sanders. So welcome. Please like, click, and share.
So, once again, this is a space where we talk about relationships from our personal perspectives. We are not professionals. That's why we invite professionals to come on to bring clarity to what we are talking about. Again, so thank you to those who joined last week. Thank you to those who are there this week. And thank you to those who just continue to just hang out with us on Mondays. We greatly appreciate you. So, a little disclaimer, we have to do disclaimers here because sometimes we can get a little rudely. So, we will respect everyone's opinions because everyone's opinion matters. Everybody's thoughts matter here. There's no name calling, there is no profanity, just a little house rules to keep us on YouTube so they don't pull us down or we get blocked. So this month we are in the mental health month, right? So, here on Mondays Beyond the Mic, for this month, we are talking about the effects of mental health in relationships and how it affects us in our relationships. So, tonight's segment is Unclear is Unkind. And I want to say, I actually read a book called Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. Awesome writer, awesome. She's just awesome all the way around. And she had a topic in there which was unclear is unkind. And she speaks to a lot of leaders, but I thought this topic was universal because we must be clear and kind to whomever we are in a relationship with. So that's where we got this topic from, Brene Brown. So thank you for writing Dare to Lead. So Elaine is going to take it away.
Yes, good evening. So we like to introduce our professional panelists to the stage and to the group. So we have Madelyn Aragon is a mental health clinician at Rutgers University Behavioral Health Care. She brings a wealth of expertise to her specialization in grief counseling, providing compassion support to those navigating through difficult times. As the founder and CEO of Safe Space Group, Madelyn has dedicated herself to guiding individuals on their path to recovery from loss, offering a beacon of hope and healing in their darkest moments. She is currently running a virtual grief group that meets every Tuesday. In addition to her impactful work, Madelyn is also a co-author of an inspiring book called Doing It Afraid, where she has shared her insight on navigating challenges with courage and resilience. With her unwavering dedication to fostering growth, empowerment, she continues to make a profound difference in the lives of those she serves. You can follow her and keep up with her on insights on mental health and grief groups by connecting on her social media, Facebook and Instagram, Safe Space Group LLC, and her LinkedIn is Madelyn Aragon. Website is safespacegrp.com. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome,
thank
Maddie. How
you.
are you?
I'm doing very good. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. So excited.
Absolutely. We thank you for answering the call to be here with us tonight and give us your professional background and share with us on some ways we can be clear and kind to one another.
Yes. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. And yeah, especially May being Mental Health Month. I figured this is a great opportunity to put a conversation out there, especially on this topic. Unclear is unkind.
Yes. So we thank you to those, our faithfuls who are in the chat. We have the psalmist. We see there are 7 people here. So again, please like, share, subscribe. Remember, it is free 99. We don't even charge you any money for all this good old information. It's free. How about that? So let's get started. So we are talking about unclear is unkind in relationships. So, one thing we know is a lack of clarity in relationship may cause unnecessary stress and anxiety, impacting mental health negatively. On the other hand, clarity can foster understanding, trust, and connection between individuals, promoting positive mental well being. That's where we want to get to, right? Mental well
Mhm.
being. By practicing clearness and kindness, skills such as active listening, empathy, and clear expression of thoughts and feelings, both parties can cultivate a healthier and more supportive environment for meaningful interactions. So that's what we're talking about tonight. Unclear is unkind. So Elaine, you want to take it away with the first one?
Okay, so we're going to just talk about unclear and then unkind. So, unkind, the lack of communication, ignoring the other person's feelings or needs, or refusing to engage in open and honest communication can increase stress and anxiety and be emotionally damaging. That's the unkind. The clear is set aside dedicated time for meaningful conversation to help foster better communication habits. Talk about your feelings, needs, and concerns and encourage your partner or whomever to express themselves openly as well.
So Maddie, what do you
Yeah.
think about that as far as mental health and in relationships?
I think opening conversations, like opening communication between your partner, you want to do it in a sensitive way. And the way you approach your partner is so important, right? How you communicate effectively is listening to your partner. Are you listening to what they're saying? Are you being empathetic of their needs, right? I feel that when you're in a relationship and you're listening to your partner, you're not just basically waiting to respond, right? Sometimes we can say, oh yeah, I'm listening, but what you're doing is running through your thoughts,
Mhm.
right, as to how you're going to respond. But active listening means you're actually validating their emotions, repeating what they said. For example, like, oh yeah, I'm hearing you say dot dot dot. So that way that person is actually feeling heard. They're feeling like their feelings are being validated. So you want to effectively communicate in such a way where you're actually helping your partner feel acknowledged. So I think that being clear in that way is will help foster a healthy relationship between the couple.
Good. Thank you for that perspective. You
Hmm.
have anything you want to say behind that, Elaine? No? Okay,
Mm.
so we are going to move on. So the next one, again, we're going to do unkind and then we're going to do clear. So,
Hmm.
unkind, feelings of isolation. Without open communication, individuals may feel emotional disconnected from their partner. This sense of isolation can lead to feelings of loneliness and contribute to mental health issues like depression.
Mm,
Clear,
yeah.
cultivate emotional connections. Make an effort to deepen your emotional connection with your partner. Engage in activities together that promote bonding and intimacy, such as
Mm,
sharing experiences, expressing gratitude, and showing affection. So, my
yeah.
question would be to that, what do you say to a person that struggles with showing affection so they
Wow.
can be clear?
Well, that's the thing. Couples have different personalities. One might be open and sharing their feelings, right? They might be very expressive, while the other one might not be. So you do have two conflicting personalities, right? But when you are there to really, what's your end goal? Is to help foster a healthy relationship. And how do you do that? Well, you end up trying to meet the other person in a way where they feel like they are able to express themselves in a healthy way. So when that person who perhaps wants to have the other person show them an affection or perhaps some kind of emotion that they're not used to, perhaps the other partner may say, I really would love if you can just show me that you care by perhaps touching my arm or rubbing me, making me feel like I'm being heard. Or when I'm done talking, expressing that you care by hugging me, because I'm a touchy type of person. I like feeling loved, and that will help me feel like you actually care. So if you express your partner your certain needs, right, that's able to help the other person understand you in a way that they can help kind of foster a healthy relationship, kind of meet your needs, right? And be able to open a dialogue as to what do you want me to do for you that will be able to show you that I care. Oh, I like to touch. I like to feel like I'm being acknowledged by sharing that you actually heard me. Repeat back what I said. So that way I know that I'm being heard. So that's one of the things that I would share with my clients if they're having, difficulty
Mhm.
expressing emotions in a way that the other person might not be willing to. So, yeah.
That's good. And what I'm
Hmm.
hearing, it leads right back to communication,
Oh, the communication is so
having that
important.
open line of communication.
Yes, you really want to communicate in a respectful, clear way, but also, you want to express your need, but also express what certain things that you want out of the person, right? And that way, the other person won't have to feel like, well, gee, I didn't know, I'm expected to do this for you, but if you're not sharing that with me, how am I supposed to know?
Yes, that's good.
Yeah.
I would just jump in and say, I love how there's like this connection between last week to this week, saying those personality tests. And,
Mm,
in this case, as well as like love language tests.
yeah.
Because even to your point,
Mhm.
when you're talking about if I take a love language test and I understand I need physical touch while this person needs words of affirmation, or
Mm,
this person functions by gifts, or this person functions by acts of service, it better helps you to say, okay, this is what I need. And
mhm.
a lot of times what we do is we give people what we want and not what they want.
Yes, that is so true. And just learning what their love language is so important, because sometimes we think that the way we express it, that they're going to do the same.
Mhm.
When in reality, that's not their love language, right? There's different ways of expressing that. So I like that you brought that up, Dr. Sanders. It's really important to know what that love language is for the other person.
Mhm.
And that's good because I even think as individuals in any relationship, like we say, any ships, right? But especially with your partner, to remember that we come from different environments, different backgrounds. And
Hmm.
it's important to learn that because just because we think we've done something a way throughout our whole life and think our partner's going to expect that, that's totally wrong. That's
Yeah.
like an infiltration of what they are accustomed to, opposed to, again, let's sitting down, having this conversation, and let's meet in the middle. Let me hear your needs while I hear your
Hmm.
needs. And it's back and forth. And then that way we're better able to cultivate a healthy relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
It's
think
a great
also
point.
just being open to change.
Hmm.
I think that's a
Yeah.
big part of it. If we're not open to changing, we can't change anyone because let's be honest, we have a hard time changing ourselves, right? So
Yes.
it's but if I love you and you love me, we're going to be willing to make adjustments to say, well, this is what my partner needs. Then we will
Hmm.
make the necessary. We will all change for the right person.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and you
Absolutely.
will see that how like profound your relationship will, the impact it will have on your relationship. And I think that
Hmm.
when both of you are willing to work at it, that's when you realize, wow, there's a shift here. right? You both are now dedicated to making those small changes little by little, and you'll see that it will have just an impact on the relationship, but also your mental health, right? You're not
Yes.
feeling depressed, not anxious, arguing all the time, feeling overwhelmed with stress because of what the relationship is doing. And that really can bring feelings of isolation, feelings of depression, feelings of not having yourself fully engaged in this relationship. You know, you disengage, you start isolating, and it's just, it does a number on you emotionally, right? You're
Yes.
not able to function. You're not able to go about your day being your whole self, true nature. So it really, it does affect not only you, but your relationships around you, your children, every aspect of your life.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think it was a great segue, even as you talked about that, because now we're going to talk a little bit about the unkind and depression. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Persistent unkindness can contribute to feelings of sadness, hopelessness, and despair. Being in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship where one feels unappreciated, unsupported, or emotionally neglected can exacerbate depressive symptoms. Clear,
Yeah.
seek professional help from a therapist or counselor. Consider incorporating self care practices into your routine, such as exercise, relaxation techniques, and engaging in enjoyable activities together. So, like
Yeah.
when we think about, you know, I guess the question in terms of your mental state and how depression can play a part if we're unkind, but then looking
Mm-hmm.
at how things can work out when you're clear. So, like,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes people are in perhaps in a hostile relationship, right? Or maybe there's just been a lot of conflict and they're carrying a lot of underlying trauma. And that can really do a number on your mental health, right? And so when all of these things are compounded, you feel like there's just no way that this relationship can become better. So what happens? You start pulling away, you start doing things that are causing you to like even put yourself in emotionally an emotional state where you start declining. So one of the things that I think is so important is to seek professional help. Couples counseling has is such a benefit. Going and doing something for yourself where you are feeling like you're taking care of yourself, taking care of your self-worth, you know, cultivating connections with other people, you're, you know, bringing support alongside you is so important. But it's really important to be able to kind of just resolve a lot of this underlining trauma. You know, getting the help that you need with a professional is so important. So I think it really helps to take care of yourself, your mental well-being first. That way you can be a better partner for somebody else.
That's good.
Absolutely.
That's
Hmm.
really good. So we're going to move on. But before we do, we need you to like, share, subscribe, drop your comments in the chat. Let us know what you're thinking out there with regards to this topic tonight: mental health and relationships. Clear, unkind, unclear is unkind. That's what we're talking about tonight. So while you're getting your thoughts together and you're going to drop them in the chat, I am going to read the next one.
Well,
So the next one says,
Hmm.
I
go.
was going to say, let's acknowledge some of our people in the chat so that we can say hello to them.
They're not speaking. We have our
Hmm.
faithful. They're not speaking. Hey, the psalmist. He's our faithful who's here every Monday night, and he gets up here. He's brave enough to be vulnerable and get up here on this panel. Ine says hello. She says hello to Maddie, where you can find Maddie. Ine is the best. She is in the back. She's always on point and helps us out. Ane said, "This is really good. We thank you, and we are glad you are getting some jewels from this."
And they
Let's
said lack
and
of
go.
miscommunication is definitely a barrier. Absolutely. having clear
So we
thought.
thank you. Yes. So again, we're talking about the mental health, right? So let's talk about the physical health impact. The chronic
Mm,
stress of being in any unkind relationship can manifest in physical health problems, such as headaches, insomnia, digestive issues. Interesting. And weaken and in a weakened immune a weak function. So clear. So we're going to be clear, right? Take steps to prioritize physical health as it directly impacts mental well-being. Supporting each other in adopting healthy lifestyle habits can strengthen your bond and improve overall well being.
mm,
So, from the mental to the physical.
mhm. Yes,
And that I
yes.
think that's kind of tough because it's one thing when we say I'm going to work out, right? So say you have a partner and that partner is a workout buff, but that ain't your area, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's easy. I think it's easier when you have that encouragement within a partner to say,
Oh,
hey,
yes.
come alongside me. We're going to do this together. We're going to tackle this thing together. I think
Mhm.
it's a little easier opposed to just, I'm just going to sit in this and I'm not going to do anything about it. But again, back to the point we said earlier, having that support.
Yes. And even if you go out with your partner, go for a walk, perhaps you can open a dialogue, communicate, right? Talk about things. Doesn't have to necessarily be think an argument that you had. Talk about things that you guys enjoy. Talk about things that you guys are looking forward to doing in the future. Things that are going to draw you both together, right? And how important is exercise for our mental health? It really reduces stress, helps our body to function better, and it causes us to just release a lot of the emotional stress that we've been carrying. So I think exercise is so important for physical well-being. And doing things with your partner just draws you closer. Go to the gym together, right? Or go for a walk, or do some kind of activity that both of you can agree on, right? Let's do this. Let's go out, maybe go for a hike. Let's go out and maybe meet up with some other friends that also like doing that activity.
Mhm.
So yeah, physical exercise is so important for your well-being.
That's good. So you're saying make it an
Hmm.
outing. Just even invite friends that also can help and just have a fun day of being physically active, but after being
Yeah.
physically active, don't go eat a cheeseburger and french fries, loaded fries with bacon and cheese.
No, you don't want to do that. I mean, you can continue being physically active later on in the night, but
Right.
not necessarily with a burger.
So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go with the next one. It's talking about unkind and emotional dysregulation.
Okay.
Living in an environment of unkindness can disrupt emotional regulation. Individuals may struggle to manage their emotions effectively, experiencing frequent mood swings, irritability, and emotional numbness. That's good.
Yeah.
Clear is establishing support networks. Reach out to friends, family members, or support groups for emotional support and companionship. Connecting with others outside the relationship can help combat feelings of isolation and provide additional perspectives and resources for coping with challenges. So I would say,
Yeah.
like, what are your thoughts in terms of, you know, having that emotional support or even your environment? What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's so important to have emotional equilibrium. You really want to be able to set healthy boundaries, because if you don't have healthy boundaries within your relationships, you're basically setting yourself up to continuously have that same argument, or feeling like that person is not respecting your needs. And when you have healthy boundaries, you're establishing these things for yourself and for the other person, right? We're explaining to that other person that, okay, I'm allowing you a part of my life, allowing you to be able to have some kind of role in my life, but there are also things that I would like out of this relationship. I don't want you to do this and this and that. Why? Because it affects my mental health, right? It doesn't suit me when we are constantly arguing because of this topic. Well, let's try to do this instead, and this will bring a balance, right? So establishing boundaries is so important in these relationship, for your emotional well-being, and also reaching out to friends, reaching out to family members, support groups that are able to give you a listening ear, right? Sometimes maybe we're not seeing things straight. Maybe there needs to be a somebody else outside looking in that kind of helps you to say, okay, wait a
Mm-hmm.
second, step back, let's look at this, because I know you're very very emotionally high right now, right? Maybe you're very upset and you're not seeing it as clear as I can right now. But let's take this little by little and step by step. Let's walk through it and talk it over with someone that you trust that will be able to provide you with some guidance.
I
That's
think
good.
that's
We have. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I
Hmm.
was gonna say I think that's really good because you think about like you have a lot of people who get into relationships and then they become secretive, right?
Hmm.
And so they're going through all of these things without anyone to even help them, a support, right? Because I
Hmm.
got it, I'm grown, I can be in this, I
Yeah.
don't want anybody in my business. Let's put it that way. But then
Hmm.
you're falling apart, and the people who know you is like something's going wrong,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't have that ability, or you come to them and they're like, well, now you want to tell me? Like, I'm a firm believer, bring the person to your people, the people you trust up front, because they know you and they're
Right.
able to see what you don't see, because
Hmm.
you're in that emotional stage of, oh, I
Hmm.
like him, in this case. And I think that is very key, because you also have to have a life, well, I believe a life separate from the person. Like, the couple that you see all together every day, you're like, I know one of y'all got to get tired of the
Right.
other one at some, you know, go away, go with your friends and then come back. Let me miss you for a minute. But that could be me,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
Um, I just think that is very important, and to have a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's very, very good. We got some comments. We have another counselor talking to us here. You want to read that?
Work on personal interests and hobbies. Introduce your world to your partner.
Yep. My likes and your likes.
Lady Dawn B said,
Yeah.
good evening, Bravo Nation and HG family. Good evening.
Hey, good evening. Good evening. So we're gonna, we always have a clip here. So the clip is from where we got the topic from Brene Brown. So we're just going to play. It's a really short clip. It gets straight to the point, and then I'm going to ask Maddie a question
Is
after.
kind, unclear is unkind. Stop avoiding the tough conversations because you think you're being polite or kind to people. That's not kind.
Straight into the point. And I think a lot of times we don't want to have those conversations because they are tough, right? And we don't
Hmm.
want to enter that or teeter on that line because it may fracture a relationship. The relationship may shatter, whatever that looks like. But
Yeah.
what she's saying, that I like what she said, is it's not kind when you're not clear.
Hmm.
Say
Hmm.
pretty much say what you mean and mean what you say. But one
Hmm.
thing I want to say, and I'll drop the link for anybody that wants to come on. We like for men to come on. What do we do? What would you say to individuals that are not kind to themselves? I think we have
Oh,
to be kind to ourselves before we even get in a
yeah.
relationship and want to be kind to others.
Yeah. And you really have to love yourself. Yeah, I mean, in the manner you love yourself, it's what you're going to give to someone else. I mean, your heart has to be filled with a lot of self love, self kindness, because we're so quick to, see ourselves distorted, perhaps in ways that maybe with what we've dealt with growing up, maybe there's just been a lot of trauma, childhood trauma, things that we've gone through, or perhaps as adults, we've seen ourselves in relationships that fostered a lot of insecurities within ourselves. So there's needs to be a lot of healing, and there's also needs to be a lot of kind of like peeling off layers like an onion, right? Little by little, and it's just going to take some time. But if you just take one thing and you just look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, man, you're a caring person, or I'm I'm a great supporter of, of whatever it is that you feel like you're good at. Just name a good quality and just speak kindness to yourself. Speak love. Speak healing. Look at yourself in the mirror and stop looking at your flaws. Stop looking at those
Mm,
things that cause you to always nitpick, right? And look at yourself and start speaking to yourself good things. Man, I'm beautiful. I'm kind. I'm funny. I'm a great
mhm,
worker. I'm a good runner or something. Pick something and look at yourself in the mirror, because you start building up your self-esteem in a way that you're going to attract people to actually see those qualities in you, right? You're going to start attracting what you give off. So why not put
mhm.
out positivity, right? Put out love and kindness towards yourself, because you're going to get that back.
And
I'm
I
just a
think,
firm believer on that. You give what you get, right? You reap what you sow. And
right.
I feel that that's the kind of thing you do. You want to give that off. It's a magnet, right? You attract people like that.
I think that is so good. And one of the things you said is layers, is like peeling off the layers. But I think
Yeah.
some of us, I used to do this. I had become an expert in picking out my flaws,
Oh, that's so easy.
opposed to
Yeah.
what's good about me, opposed to
Hmm.
looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, you that girl. And it's the
Yeah.
song, what Mary J made the song, Good Morning Gorgeous.
Uh-huh.
That affirmation you have to say to yourself. So that is extremely important, to speak life into yourself, right? Because
Yeah.
life and death is in the power of the tongue, right?
That's right.
So, and then also we can't expect others to speak life into us when we're speaking death over us.
Right. 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 And how are you supposed to respect yourself if you're speaking in that manner, right? How do you expect the other person, your couple, your partner, to treat you in such a way where you don't even respect yourself or love yourself, right?
Hmm.
You're gonna feel like, yeah, I guess, that's exactly what I deserve if I don't even care or love myself in such a way. No, can't do that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And if I could say, I think a part of that, which is all good, about what the law of attraction,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you keep saying, or I've heard people say, and I've said it before, like, oh, why only attract this type of man? Or I
Right.
mean, you could say this type of woman, they're always this or they're always that. It's kind of a
Hmm.
reflection of how you see yourself and
Right.
Hmm.
what you attract or the people that come around you. Um, I also think going back to the clip when she said, that when you're not having the honest conversations, you're being unkind. I think a
Mm.
big part of that is people have this fear of losing the other person or rocking the boat, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
my thing would be, if we're in a relationship, and if we're going to be in a relationship that's meaningful, any relationship has to be tested.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh
if
yeah.
I can't speak my truth and say you hurt my feelings, or this is, when you said this, it made me feel this way,
Hmm.
then what are we really doing, to be honest? Because all we're doing is just holding on to say we're in a relationship, but we're
Hmm.
really not real. We're in an acquaintanceship. We're not in a relationship.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We're not relating to each other in the way that we need to connect to grow and build a stronger bond.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so true. You really want to have that communication, but I think a lot of people just feel scared to confront the other person, to be vulnerable, to be true to their feelings because of perhaps how the other person are going to react, or maybe they've had experiences where that other person reacted in such a way that was unhealthy, so they decide to keep it to themselves, and that's where they really have to rethink the relationship, right? Is this a relationship um serving me in a way that's going to lift me up or going to bring the best out of me, or is this relationship destroying me? So That's where you really have to have those conversations, and that can be very painful at times. But if you do have those conversations and you're in a relationship where you feel like it's an unhealthy relationship and there's some fear, then there definitely needs to be professional help. There definitely needs to be a third party involved.
We're going to go to some comments, but real quick to Elaine's point and what we've been talking about, how it plays on your mental health. If I can't speak my mind, right? If I
Mm-hmm.
have to hold back what I'm feeling, what is that doing to me internally? I
Mm-hmm.
have it playing in my head, but I don't have enough courage to say it because I think it will end the relationship. Right? How does that
Mm-hmm.
even play out on our mental? Because now you're playing it in your head opposed to saying it to the person that you need to say it to. Let's go to the comments.
Lady Dawn B said a relationship is only as good as the truth that it stands on. Being kind and caring enough to be honest with others and have hard conversations with care. Honesty shouldn't be damaging, but building up instead. Totally agree. I do
Mm-hmm.
believe that um, it is not the what, it's the how. And it's the way you
Mhm.
decide how you're going to deliver the message and not to deliver the
Mm-hmm.
message. We're in the midst of an argument about why you didn't put the toilet seat down. And then, and by the way, I didn't like X, Y, and Z. Well, you're like, what did the toilet seat have to do
Yeah.
with, you know, having clear bound? I think being mature enough to know the when. And I think that's the biggest part. If I had to
Mm-hmm.
say that, is like, when do I have this conversation with you that I don't just blurt it out because right now, because it may not be the right place or timing, right? We're at the dinner table with our friends, and then all of a sudden, I didn't like when you, and it's like, what? This wasn't the right place for that.
No.
But saying, hey, I'd like to have, and I'm just going to use this, something that I had to learn to be able to say, later on, I need to have a conversation with you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that, of course, the other person's like, and you get people, tell me now, tell me now. You're like, no, I'm not in the right space and place to have this conversation. Let me process what I want to say. And what I've learned to do is write down my points. Because if it's something that's hard for you, you then get very emotional, right? So now you're mixing how you feel and all of this, opposed to being clear to what your points are. Like, this is how this made me feel. I felt I was vulnerable, and using, we tell kids this, use your words, right? We don't like to
Right.
use our words because it makes us, in our mind, I look soft, or I look like a punk, or I look like, and I don't want him to think, or vice versa. He could say, I don't want her to think that I'm weak because, I'm not a man, but, a lot of times they say it's only acceptable for men to cry during a funeral, if somebody dies, if somebody, these are the places and spaces that they can do that. Or he's considered quote unquote weak. And that's absolutely not true,
Mm-hmm.
because he should have, both parties should have the space and place to say, this is how I feel. And even though it may not have been your intent, this is how I feel, or this is how I took it. Because you could
Mm-hmm.
be doing something absolutely right and absolutely wrong at the same time.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very, very good because I heard you say something. And for me, I was the opposite. I would hold on to stuff. And to your point, it'll be a disagreement about something, but guess what's coming out? Everything you did for the past month, it is coming out. And it's like, well, what are you even talking about? But I just ran off like 20 different things. And he's standing there like, but what that got to do? What they said with the price of tea in China? So to your point here, you must communicate that. But before we move on, we want to say hello to our faithful Pastor Chris for getting up here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. One of our brave males. Salute. And we have some people that came in.
I'm gonna believe Chloe is somehow related to our speaker.
Look at that. It's my
Look at
daughter.
that. Who would have thought it?
Oh, it's so funny.
Alonzo Hall said, salute. Thank you for
Salute,
joining.
salute, salute. Thank you, Alonzo, for coming back.
Michael
Uh-oh.
McDonald, he says, hi. So process that before you put that out there. Men don't like that. Only Michael.
You know, it would we need Mike, we need Mike, we need only Mike. You know he got to throw a curveball. But Pastor Chris, go on. Do you have something you want to ask our Maddie up here?
Yes, and I'm glad Miss Maddie is on the program, and I hope you gave her a fair warning about myself and my brother
Mhm.
Mike. I'm sure he's
She
going to make an
watches.
appearance.
She watches.
Okay,
She
okay.
knows.
So at least she knows. Okay, good, good, good. Because
Oh,
I don't want her to pop off. She'd be like, "What in the world is this?" No, I'm kidding. No, but relationships, I think it's can be complex in a way, especially how the narratives have changed, have gender roles changed, everything has just changed. So finding a fine line where you can be healthy as a man and a woman and still have a successful relationship, I think that's a very important key, no matter what your profession is. And I think we've gotten so caught up in profession in order for me to open up this way, or you have to make a certain amount of money to open up that way. So we're dealing with all these peeling of the onion skins just to get to the source. You want companionship, you want trust, you want unity, you want to build. No matter if I'm making six figures or $9 an hour, that's the source, that's the goal. So my question is, why is it so hard for people of today to find that heart of the onion? Is it because of the social dynamic, or is it because people are just jacked up? Or, there could be a whole bunch of things, but that's my question. How can we fix this dynamic of we can't get along? What's really going on here? That's my
mm. Wow, that's deep there, Pastor. Well, I mean, it really depends on the relationship, but I also feel that, having unmet expectations can cause a lot of grief, a lot of um just a lot of problems in the relationship, because if you're not meeting my need and I expect you to have met that, I'm going to feel a certain kind of way. I'm going to come at you. I'm going to disagree with what you're saying because I'm feeling hurt, or I might isolate myself, right? So feeling like people are not meeting their expectations can cause a thrift in the relationship, lack of communication, right? When they're upset, they rather just isolate or ignore or hold on to it, like Pache was saying, and she would bring up all these
That used
things
to
from
be
the
me.
past, right? And all of a sudden, it's being thrown at you all at once, right? Because they haven't met, they didn't confront that situation right away, right? So when you have all these things right now, you going on in these relationships, it really can shake you up. It almost feels like, what is going on? Why is this, the relationship has changed? Why isn't the intimacy there? Why is the trust is not there, right? Why is it feeling like we're two separate people living in one home, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
really can cause a thrift in the relationship. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing right now. And the clients that I deal with is just feeling like they're disconnected from one another, right? Yeah. So how do we go about
And that's
fixing that?
But I would also say, I think to part of, or to Pastor Chris's point, there is another part of that where now we have all of this social media telling you what a relationship should look like, and so
Mm-hmm.
now
mm-hmm.
you like, oh, I was watching TikTok and it said,
Right.
or her husband does this, and I'm just reminded of, I think it was a TikTok, and the woman said, my husband said he doesn't love me anymore, and he was like, I didn't say that. She said, yes you did. And he said, no, I said, I'm not buying you a Gucci bag. She's like, it's the same thing, you don't love me anymore. So
Okay.
the point was, I mean, it was a joke, but
Oh,
Right.
people watch these things, and then all of a sudden they want to mimic this
mm-hmm.
relationship, and you didn't choose that partner, or you're not even the person, you're not that person, or you want something that you're not.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
I
good.
know it's
That's
like,
good.
oh, I need a man who lives by himself. He can't live with his mother. He got to make 6 figures, but you live with your mama. You don't have, like you're asking for something you don't have,
Mm.
or you're
Mhm.
putting unrealistic expectations on someone.
Mhm.
It's great to have aspirations, but at least be what you want.
Right, that part.
Mhm.
And then even speaking about being unclear is unkind. For me, when I used to hold on to all that stuff, I was so angry.
Mm.
Again, the mental effects of it, the
Mhm.
stress weighing me down, just walking around angry, opposed to just being clear about what I had to say. Just instead of communication is let me hold it in, let me hold it in. But one thing I have learned about me and how I handle it now is, and it's to the point Elaine was saying earlier, I know when to speak. So
Mm.
for me, it may be give me a day, depending on the situation, depending on what happened, depending on what I'm feeling or how I'm feeling. I might need a week.
Mhm.
It just depends. So now I know I don't hold it in, I don't internalize it, but I do know I have to have that conversation. But I also know I have to be in the right mental state to teach, to speak to someone with respect, so I can respect how I'm coming across and respect their feelings as a human being, because it's not to hurt anyone, it's to communicate, right? To be clear. But in
Mhm.
being clear, we don't have to be unkind.
Yeah.
I would just add this something my mentor, he taught me. He says, learn how to be firm but polite. Like if it's a hard no, and this is how I feel, I can let you know this is a hard no, absolutely not going to happen, but I need to be polite in saying what I need to say. And a lot of times, if we're not thinking, if we're just doing it off the cuff and we're in the
Mhm.
moment and we're in the emotion, and even finding your words, because it may be something like, this may not come out the right way right now, so could
Mhm.
you give me a minute to process before I
Yeah.
say something? And I'll be honest, like, I hate saying I'm sorry, so I want to process so I can get it out once and say, yeah, that's what I meant to say, or I didn't, let me filter, because in the moment, and anyone who knows me knows, if I start out with, first of all, clear the
It's on
runway,
left.
you know.
It's
However, if I'm like, okay, right now this is how I feel, I do want to have a conversation, or I do want to talk about this, but I need to process before I have this
Mhm.
conversation with you, because words hurt. We all grew up hearing
Mhm.
that sticks and stones may break your bones, and names will never
Mhm.
harm. That's the biggest lie.
lies.
Words hurt. And and still in the process of realizing that your words can cut people, your words are sharp, and
Mhm.
your words are powerful. So when you speak something, you release it into the atmosphere, and you have
Mhm.
to like realize, like, wait a minute, now I just sent out, whether that's curses or blessings. And you have that, if we're going to go from a spiritual perspective, it says life and death is in the power of the tongue. So basically, what you
Mhm.
eat is what you eat. So if you
Yeah.
speak life, or you speak, but you're learning how to process how you feel, um and saying, respectfully, I don't believe that this was your intent, or I need clarity around this situation, because this is
Mhm.
how I took it. Could you please explain it to me? And I think environment, going back to something in the book, what happens with us and with environment, our hood, neighborhood, our home taught us this is how you
Mhm.
combat the opposite sex, right? Um, I would say I was blessed that I used to watch my parents have these like long conversations, right? But that's in my house. The environment, I can see the girl and the guy outside, they throwing bottles and they doing all kinds of
Right.
crazy stuff. And you're like,
No, I
and I remember saying, no, I would never do that, because I'm not going to embarrass
Mm.
myself outside. I'm not going to do. So you get what I'm saying? You see these two things,
Mhm.
you have to make the decision on which person you're going to decide to be, and then how do you express yourself in the process. I hope all of that made sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So before we move on, we need you to click, share, and like, subscribe. It's free. That's see what Pastor Chris doing. Click, share, and like. It's all a free 99. Look who's on the stage. Welcome, 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 Mike. Welcome, Mike. There's your buddy, Pastor Chris. So we have some comments here.
Anae says,
On the
yep,
stage.
a
Welcome,
lot.
welcome, welcome, Mike. Welcome, Mike. There's your buddy, Pastor Chris. So we have some comments here.
Anae says,
On the
yep,
stage.
a lot.
Welcome, welcome, Mike. Welcome, Mike. We are having technical difficulties.
Oh
I
yeah,
hear
it was the
feedback.
cell phone too much. Okay, so Anae says, yep, a lot of relationship goals instead of relationship guides. And absolutely, we have these goals instead of the guide to say, how do we get along if you're the person that I want in my life? Lady Dawn B says, great point, Dr. E. Be what you want. That's right. I'm going to be like, is that what you want? Then who are you? Lady Dawn B says, words definitely matter. They create an exchange. What you say will manifest things you may not be prepared to handle. Absolutely. Like, oh,
That's
he's
a
a
good point.
monster. Like, oh my God, I got a monster. Yes, that's what you called him. Vaughn Eric says, blessings all.
So that's good. I don't know. I think Mike dropped off. He might be having technical difficulties again, but that's fine. So what we're talking about tonight, we are talking about Unclear is Unkind and the effects it has on mental health. And we're talking about just being clear in relationships, communicating what we need, how we should not isolate ourselves because that causes depression and leads into other things. So before we move on, Mike, is there something you want to share? I don't know. Mike, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening.
So, good evening.
Okay. So, oh wow. What am I getting feedback? Wait, hold on.
So while you get that together, we are going to
Yeah.
play the clip again.
It's going to be simple. Clear is kind, unclear.
One behavior change that you think all leaders need is what?
It's going to be simple. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. Stop avoiding the tough conversations because you think you're being polite or kind to people. That's not kind.
So again, we're talking about Clear as Kind. That is from Brene Brown. It's a book I read, Dare to Lead. And she speaks to a lot of leaders. However, that topic I thought is universal because we need to be clear and kind in relationships regardless. So that's where we got the topic from. So Mike, take it away.
Well, I just wanted to comment on some of the things that you said earlier,
Okay.
Madelyn. Very, very enlightening. Pache, Elaine, always enlightening. But I think one of the biggest things that I think you mentioned, Elaine, was emotion always gets in the way. While everything you said, Madelyn, is excellent in theory, it reminds me of a movie, Civil War. What's that movie with Denzel Washington when he was playing the soldier? He was a runaway slave in Civil War, right? Glory. There you go. Thank you, Doc. Pastor. So there was a clip in that movie where there was a marksman. The gentleman was shooting the target. He can always shoot that target. He could shoot the target with his eyes closed. Do you remember that part of the movie? And then Matthew Broderick said, okay, shoot now. And then he shot the gun beside him. See, the point was, in theory, everything works. But when you under pressure with that gun next to you being shot back at you, even a karate master, you have all these black belts out here, but you're always hitting the bag. The bag's not hitting you back. You understand? So a lot of these things, while they may be great in theory, I don't think the average person can handle the emotional confrontation, if you will, or the dialogue that comes with the person being upset, one being upset, the other not being upset, or whatever. And it's always, the theory goes out the window, and then you start to clash because of emotions. What can you offer as a remedy to that?
To not have both of you clash?
Yeah, I mean, look,
where you feel so emotional disregard, high, you're in an emotional high.
Right. So so everything you said, okay, was great. And people want to put that to practice. But there's always somebody that cannot put it to practice, and it turns into argument because of the fact that emotionally, when you try and sit down and have this healthy dialogue, it can't happen because someone's emotionally strung out. Someone's always emotionally strung out, and it gets the other person strung out. And then everything that you mentioned goes out.
Right. And that's hard. That's where when you realize, my goodness, you're not communicating because you're just like this. You're battling each other, right? Because you're throwing shots at one another. You're making that
you're
person.
No longer listening.
You're not listening. You
understand. You're listening to reply.
Exactly. You're listening to reply, and your hurt is there, and you want to hurt the other person because you're feeling hurt. So it comes to a point where you both have to probably just take time to just help each other to calm down, right? Come back, and when you're both at a neutral state, when you're both at ease, where you're both open to listening, allowing the other person first to talk while the other person listens, right? And when you do listen, you want to be able to repeat back what they say. And we always remember in the back of your mind what brought you here together, the love that you guys have for each other, why you want to make this work, right? Because that should be your end goal. Your end goal should be, I love this person. This person is not here to hurt me or harm me. I want to do this in a non-judgmental way, so that way both of you can come together to come to an understanding. But if you both are here already immediately having judgments of one another and already are in a defensive mode, you're not going to listen. You're not going to want to bring about reconciliation or peace or an understanding because you're on guard. So you both have to have a heart where both of you are together to have an understanding, to be able to work through a problem together with open dialogue and a sense of oneness, right? Remembering what brought you together, what brought you to want to have a relationship with this person. Those are the kind of things you have to keep reminding yourself. And when you are in a heat of a battle, right? Because you have to tell yourself, this person, yes, she's upset at me, but or I'm upset at this person, but I still love her. I still care about her, and I want to bring reconciliation, and I want this disagreement or this conflict to be resolved in a healthy manner. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. But what I'm saying more or less is, what can you offer that person? And I guess you answered the question, but when that person is emotionally not able to conversate, what exercise can you offer that person to get them ready? I mean, is there a prerequisite before conversation? Should there be?
Well, there should be a place where where they're able to not be so high in their emotions, where they're calm, where they're relaxed, where they're able to listen, to really have a listening ear for that other person to come in and share without feeling like they're being judged or analyzed or criticized. There has to be a point where they come in together, where they're both in agreement to have an open dialogue. I think it's just, you don't want to have it where they're all upset or, high in alert. Like, they want to be able to have to be, you know, emotionally regulated. They want to be at a place where they can actually have a conversation. We're not fighting with each other. I think that's foremost the most important thing. Does anybody else have any
Yeah,
thoughts?
Yeah, I
I
think Elaine wants to say something.
yeah,
Mhm.
I think two. One is, as I've stated before, dating is getting data, right? And you need to have these conversations before an argument. You need to ask people, what do you like when you're upset? What do seeing people in those seasons. I also think, to the point of Madelyn was saying, is practice makes perfect. You're going to keep practicing. If I think you're worth my time, I'm going to practice. I'm going to keep going. Okay, maybe this is not working, let me try it another way, right? Because we all learn and receive differently, and a lot of times what we do is we put the way we would accept it and expect other people to accept it the same way, opposed to learning how that person learns. And I'll use this example. I have a daughter with special needs. And when I selected her school, the thing that the social worker said that like blew my mind, she said, it's not her job to learn how we teach. It is our job to teach her how she learns. And when they said that, I was like, wow, how do you apply that to your life? Because we have a standard and we're like, if you don't fit into A, B, and C, opposed to saying, wait a minute, let me understand how you need to receive information. And then it's on me to practice the way you receive, and vice versa.
Mhm.
The other person can practice on how I receive, opposed to thinking you're supposed to do it. It's my way or the highway. So that's where
Mhm.
makes perfect. And as I'm talking to you, or if I'm talking to someone and I'm like, well, how would you like someone to give you feedback? So to me, if we have these conversations up front, then I can now put it in practice to say, oh, he did tell me X, Y, and Z, right? Opposed to now we're just all emotional and we're in the moment. And now it's a deal breaker. And then some people just like toxicity. They like toxic drama. And you have to realize, is this the person I want? And I know I've heard men, maybe
Mhm.
all men, say they like a little crazy. And some of y'all like a little more crazy. I said I've heard some, not all. But you have to realize, what level are you willing to deal with on both ends? Because there's some men that you go like, okay, he was in the bushes. All right. So, what level are you willing to deal with?
Mhm.
And that's a good point. Before we move on, we have some comments in that section. And also, to piggyback on what Elaine and Madelyn said, it's that frustrating thing that for me, I was like, why is he not getting it? Because I understood it the way that I process it. So if I process it this way, why are you not understanding? Duh, because that's the way you
Mhm.
process it. It's not the way that he's receiving it. He doesn't process that way. So the key is, okay, I had to step back. It's my delivery. And again, learning who you're with. So just to
Mhm.
that point, just because I know something, and we talked about this earlier, I don't know if you were on, how our environments, we were raised, condition us to behave a certain way. And that behavior may be acceptable to us, but not to whom we're meeting with, or who we're trying to date, or who we're trying to court. So I had to like, why are you like, what are you not getting? Is
Mhm.
you got to the point, are you an idiot? Like, why are you not understanding? But it's not
Mhm.
that. It's the way I'm just saying, y'all know me. Had to learn. No, just because you learn that way, just because you deliver something that way, that doesn't mean that's how everybody else learns. It doesn't mean that's how everybody else receives it. And again, we're talking about unclear is unkind. If I'm unclear in my delivery and I'm unkind in my delivery, who's going to listen to you? Because I know I'm not. So the thing is, that pointing that finger back at you is like, hey, your delivery, you might need to pipe down a little. And again, to the point, I learned to get into a space where I'm not running off emotions, where I can speak to that person with clarity and clearness
Mhm.
and kindness. So let's get to some comments. Oh, the jokes are rolling. You want to take this away?
Vaughn says, okay, what room is Mike in today? It's like trying to find Waldo.
It's like what? Trying to find Waldo.
That's your buddy. That's your buddy Vaughn.
What's up, Vaughn?
Anae said, great questions, Michael. The psalmist says most people are emotionally immature and communication is not taught well. Some of us, not all, have graduated from the University of Shana. we have come up, fam.
Yeah, because you know Pastor Chris be with Quita and them.
Right. And then Antoinette said, agreed, Pastor Chris. Antoinette says, practice can make permanent. I like that. Practice can make permanent because now it will become a habit. You will be more aware of how to deal with things, right? I mean, and if anybody's worth being around, you're going to practice with. If you don't feel like you work my time, you're like, I don't got time for this. And you walking away. The psalmist says, most mature men don't understand Quita. Quita, if there's a Quita out there, we do not mean to offend you. Just saying.
You just say it.
Lady Dawn B said, yes, Dr. E. It's very easy to learn how others learn. I went through that with my son, and it helped me to learn to apply that in life in all areas. Absolutely. When you start to just come to the point that you say, wait a minute, I want to know, but that comes with I think our love for the person, that I'm vested in you. I want you to be the best version of you. And go back to something. It doesn't matter what type of ship it is, right? If it's a friendship, if it's a relationship, if it's a mentorship, if it's whatever it is, if I'm vested in you, then I'm willing to take the time to understand who you are, how you think, and how can I help bring another level to your life of kindness, peace, whatever that looks like, whatever it is that I have to bring, because I honestly don't believe we don't encounter people by accident. They either bring the worst out of us or they bring out the best. So when they bring out the worst, it's to help us to identify what it is we need to work on. And when they bring out the best, it's to help elevate you to that next level.
And that is so good. Yeah, we don't mean to, if it's a Quita out there, we just have fun on this show. We're not trying to harm or offend anybody. But I do have a question for Maddie. And my question is, being that we're talking about unclear is unkind, how does a person deal with a person that was unkind but is no longer here? So they have transitioned, but they have unresolved issues. And that person was unkind to them. That person was unclear to them. So now the person that's alive is sitting here wondering, like, why did they treat me that way? How does one deal with that emotionally and mentally process that?
Yeah, they're left with a broken heart and a lot of undelivered communication. And it's just stirred up in them. And they find themselves grieving that relationship that they once had, that they wish could have been different, better. Right. And so when you're left with so much of that unresolved grief, it stirs up within you. I think it's so important to be able to just have someone there with you that you can trust to be able to deliver those things. Perhaps even what I find so important with my clients is even writing a letter to that person.
I was going to say,
Right? Put it into words, write it, get your trusted individual in front of you, read that letter so that way you can expel that communication out. And then that way that other person hears you say it, you sign it goodbye, and then take it, shred it, and then you find some kind of peace within that because there's somebody there that is able to hear you express your emotional pain and your broken heart. So I think that's what's so important when that person is no longer there, to have someone else hear you express those the broken heart, right? So
That's good, because I wondered playing that, how that plays on one's mental in the stress of that.
Yes.
I can't get it from the person. I can't ask that person. So
Right.
how do I get all these unresolved feelings that I'm feeling
Yeah.
about that person or whatever the situation? How do I get that out? How do I
Mm-hmm.
release that from me so it's not weighing me down or stressing me out or playing
Yeah.
over in my head?
And it does. You sometimes do play it over in your head. You play scenarios, right, of things that you can change or scenarios that you wish you could have said to this person while they were alive. But it just brings some kind of like discomfort knowing that that is still stuck within you, that you're not able to have shared that. And so it does build up a lot of grief within you. Mike, did you want to say something?
Yeah,
Mhm.
like call me a Neanderthal or whatever. I don't care. But how could you harbor feelings for someone that did not have feelings for you? I mean,
I'm
I
not
don't want to sound cold, but
Mm-hmm.
a person treated you a certain way as an adult, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you should be able to understand that that person was not for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I chalk it up as that was their loss because this is what I have to offer. Take it or leave it. If you don't want to build with me, then that's your loss. There's something out there that's better for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
as far as that goes, that person that was left behind or whatever, that wasn't the person. That person, like Elaine said, wasn't for you. It was
Mm-hmm.
there to teach you a lesson. Now I'm
Yeah.
gonna go to find a person that's gonna elevate me. So that
But if
I'm
person,
you're saying,
saying good. I was saying
yeah.
I'm speaking, so let me be clear. I'm
mhm,
speaking in terms of if you were in a relationship with someone,
right?
right?
Yeah.
And something happened. You've been in a relationship
Okay,
1 or 2 years, 3 years, whatever, and something caused a rift,
okay.
and there's an immediate death,
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
but you never
Yeah.
got to resolve that issue. But now that person is no longer here,
I see.
and
Yeah.
so now you're playing on. I'm not speaking of somebody you're just meeting or trying to get to know. I mean, in a relationship,
No, I get
there
that.
was a rift. Yeah, and there's the rift. And okay, right now we on the outs. We haven't gotten to that point to really clear the air and talk about it. But now that person's no longer here.
So how
So
would
I
that
mean it in
affect
terms of
you
that.
moving on to another relationship? I don't get that. One has nothing to do with moving on, no?
It
But
does because
okay.
when someone we I think what happens is we often think of death as the person no longer being here. A death can be a breakup, a death can be a
Right, that's
loss of
right.
a job, a death.
Right.
Yeah.
So it still affects you and you still go through those same feelings and emotion depending on who you are, depending on the level of love you had for that person, depending on the intimacy of that relationship. I would say for me, I'm not going to speak for everybody else. I would feel some kind of way because of the love I had for that person, the
Mm-hmm.
connection I had with that person. I never wanted it to end that way. I'll say it this way. My grandmother had this rule with us. We never went to bed without speaking or angry, and we never left the house without speaking or being angry with one another. For that mere fact, we never knew who was coming back.
You did. You
So that's what I mean.
you did.
Go ahead.
We
Huh?
all have that rule, but we still do it. We still leave the house. We still go to bed because we take for granted the fact that we will be there and that person will be there tomorrow. I mean, you try to practice it, but you the human cannot practice that every day consistently.
Yes, you
And that's
can.
why we have failed relationships.
I would say, don't say we, I would say you, because that's one thing I shared with Elaine and my friends know. And I was just talking to Maddie about this.
Mhm.
I have experienced a death. My partner was murdered. My father was murdered the day I was born. I've lost people I love. So as I've gotten older, I've learned the importance of relationships. And it goes back to what I was saying. I don't even know what show we was on. This is one of the reasons I display vulnerability. This is one of the reasons I tell people how I feel because no one's promised tomorrow. So I can say, so and so, I love you. I can pick up the phone and say, hey, just thinking about you. It doesn't always mean this long, drawn out conversation or we got to do brunch. But for me, not to sound morbid, I think of life backwards. Just for that mere fact that I may not see, yeah, we have banter, whatever, but guess what? I would never want anything to happen to you, right? So if somebody would say, Dag, Mike, and I'll be like, oh, wow. So for me, I look at life different, knowing that I may not see my loved ones tomorrow. It helps me not take people for granted. It helps me to be clear. It helps me to be kind, if that makes sense.
Right. I got you.
I'm sorry.
Pastor Chris?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on that because I think when you deal with trauma in your life, and for me, I was before my accident, I was a prick. I'm gonna be real. I was, and my life altered and changed. So I said, you know what? What is it gonna do me if I continue to be this way? Why don't I change my narrative and make myself more pleasant, not as anal, always uptight, always, all this stuff. So I learned to enjoy life because I was blessed with a second chance. So most people are not. So every day I live life, and I can agree with you, Pache, when it comes to every day I wake up, I thank God I woke up. So I'm going to make an impact every single day. Most people say, oh, you're over the top. Oh, you're too much. Well, you don't know my story and you don't know what I've been through. So I'm going to be too much. I'm going to be over the top because one, I shouldn't even be here. Two, I want to leave an impact. I have a daughter, right? So she changed my whole narrative as far as female relationships, communication, tea time, Barbies, all these things that I am being now I'm not gonna say demasculated, but my manhood is put in check, because I'm over here, playing with dolls, having tea time. But my whole point is this: what I'm saying is that I'm learning how to understand the emotional power that a woman has, because again, we are pretty much, as men, we are raised to be strong providers, all this stuff. Don't show emotion, be stone cold, depending on how you grew up. We're not able to tap into the emotional vein. So when some of us have that opportunity to learn it, it brings a whole different element of life. Am I saying be soft? No. Am I saying lose your manhood? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you'll be able to communicate effectively with the other party more than you have been in the past. Why? Because you're able to tap in the same vein with them. It will avoid arguments. You can still be a man and give your point, but you know how to present the gift versus presenting a whole bunch of nonsense and world star and queetism and shenanigans and all this stuff. And yeah, I'm sorry to offend somebody, but this is the culture I deal with. I'm sorry. So we have to deal with these narratives. So what I'm saying is, and I'm gonna wrap it in a little bow, we have to understand that we have to grow up, men and women. We can't stay stuck like Chuck. We can't still stay in, oh, I'm going to be this way because that's just how I'm going to be. Well, look, you're going to stay by yourself with your dog and your cat and with a big house. You got 6 figures, a nice car, and you don't have nothing to show for it except your dogs and your cats. Wow, what a life. I don't want a life like that. If I'm going to have 6 figures, a dog and a cat, I'm going to have a wife that's fine or whatever it is. We're going to do it big in this world together and not singled out and all this nonsense. That's the problem, because the communication's not there. We don't know how to talk to each other. I don't care what field you're in. Period. I don't care if I'm working at McDonald's and I'm about to be a branch manager. I don't care. I still should be able to communicate with you effectively. You're like, man, that boy is woo. He messed me up. And he a manager at McDonald's. That's my whole point. It shouldn't matter what your job title is. You have to learn to communicate effectively with the other party. Period. Male or female, regardless of what job, what culture, what gender, it doesn't matter. We got to get over this nonsense and learn how to become one unit and become powerful in this world. I'm done.
I think Elaine has something to say.
Yeah, I would say, going back to something Mike said and talking about the relationships, I think we all have to learn and understand healthy boundaries, and not everyone has them. Some people have grown up in toxic environments. So arguments is what it doesn't, you don't love me if you don't argue with me. And when you have someone else who's grown up with like, no, I don't do that. Or and I'm just using, if I saw my father have a conversation or walk away, and then maybe somebody else saw, their father, it was a domestic violence type of situation. So although you say we're adults coming with our childhood trauma into these relationships, and we show up and we can mask very well. So whether that's working at McDonald's, 6 figures, it doesn't matter. That little boy or little girl, and I have said it and I will continue to say it, we spend our adult lives trying to work out our childhood issues. If you show me the things you work so hard at, I can guarantee you can trace it back to your childhood. So if I don't know what healthy relationships look like, I will go, as that song, looking for love in all the wrong places. And when someone tries to love me properly, I don't know what that's like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fight against it, and I'm going to sabotage my own happiness because I'm used to abuse. And I don't just mean physical abuse. Maybe that's verbal abuse. Maybe it's not feeling like I'm enough. Maybe, now someone's telling me I'm pretty, but when I was younger, people didn't tell me that. Or I was always the smart one and not the pretty one. Somebody else was the pretty one. And so all of these things and all of these voices are running around in your head. And then you meet this person who's saying you're the smart and pretty one. And now it's like, what? No one's ever told me that before. And now they don't know how to handle this relationship. And again, you're going to have one or two, someone who's willing to love you through it because they see something in you and they're willing to say, no, I'm right here. So when you go off, I'm just going to be right here because they know that's not really you. And I've heard somebody say, you could take what they consider the toughest girl or woman, and she's really a big baby, right? At the end of the day, but is that person that's going to help her, and I'm just using from a woman's perspective, help her feel safe. When a woman feels safe, there is nothing she won't she's nothing she's not willing to do when she feels protected. And when I say, when she feels like she can safely lay her heart with, and vice versa, if a man feels safe, there's nothing he won't do to protect that relationship, because in you and him or whatever, there's a peace. When you find someone who can help quiet the noise in your head, that's a one in a lifetime. Like, you may get that twice, but that's not in every relationship. Some people you look at and you like, why am I here? And when can I leave? And then there's other people that you look back and you reflect over your relationships and say, wait a minute, I've only known peace at this point. And I'm going to use this. Recently, this whole thing about Shaq's ex-wife, Shawnee now Henderson, when she said, I don't know if I really was in love with Shaq. And people like, oh, it's the money. No, it's not. And when I heard that statement, I was like, no, what she's saying, it wasn't until she got into this relationship that she understood what was happening. It didn't mean she didn't love him. She just didn't love him at the same level because she was in a different space that now I'm mature. I can reflect back and say, yeah, no, this is different. I feel safer here. She may have felt, and I'm just using this, safer with Shaq. You know, the fight, she was fine financially, and yes, she makes her own money, and it's not about money. But with this place, she feels like she could lay her heart there, and she may feel like he's not going to cheat on me, and she can feel. So that's a different safe space when you feel like the person you with, you trust them. I trust you with my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I will also piggyback and say on that with respects to her, even learning her value. And like to your point, looking back on what I accepted from him, I didn't love myself enough. Now I love myself. I know what I deserve. I deserve this. Now I get to lay it all down.
Mm-hmm.
Before I thought I was laying wide. Yeah. And she probably, and I can say she probably didn't even know. I would just think that she was holding back, because when you're young, you really think you know what love is, and you don't. You
Mm-hmm.
think you know what you're doing, and you don't, until you get older and life experiences teach you that, oh, that wasn't love. That was a bunch of foolery. Like, what the heck was I doing? Because
Right.
I can say for me, I look back and be like, girl,
Or
what?
you were,
The HE double hockey sticks was on your mind.
but
Right.
or you could say you love the person, but you weren't in love, which is different, because there are a lot of people that
Totally.
say, you know what, I got love for them, but I'm not in love with them. It's like if they was like, I'm out, bye, versus you want to think about, well, wait, do I really want to give up this relationship, Mike?
Mhm.
But his response was golden.
Oh, absolutely.
You
But
know,
I mean, I think
because I don't think she should have put it out there quite in that context on social media. I thought that was a dig.
Well, no, I
I think
think
they took
what
that from a
happened
book.
is
They
it was
took
in
a
her
clip.
book, and people pulled that piece out of it.
I see.
And again, not to make this to turn into that, but I was using that to say it doesn't mean that she wasn't in love with him at that moment. It's now that she's
Mhm.
mature, she's gone through some things, and now in this relationship, she feels different. She feels safer. She feels protected. So all of those things now is nothing like being able to lay your head on the person that you're with, and they got you, like the world is crazy, and you just like, I just want to go home, and I just want to sit down, and I just want him to get it, and he gets you, and he's like, just sit down, don't, you ain't even got to say another word, because they get you. And I think that as we mature, I can say for myself, that's what I want. I want to be able, like, he gets me. And not only does he get me, it's like if I come in and I'm like, and he's just like, okay, Elaine, just go sit down.
Mhm.
So where does
And
one
that's-
find that? That's what we all here for, right? To find out, where does one find that?
But I think you got to become, and first of all, I think we have to open ourselves up to other people, right? Because what happens is we get stuck in routine. I know you, I know what you will do, so I'll stay here because I know how this show goes. When I'm willing to step out of the box and say, I want to change the channel. I don't like this show no more. I'm changing the channel. I step outside the box, and then I get to see, because now I know what I want. When I was younger, I didn't know. I just want to be in, I want to be in love, right? What does that look like? You don't really know. But when life has taught you a few things, you start saying, wait a minute, hold on. No, I need to be respected, and he needs to be respected, and I need this. And it is not about we talk about money. So it's not the 6 figure. It's like, let's get to the base. What is it that, do you understand me? Are you willing to get me? I personally, for me, do you love God? Do you trust God? Or are you just talking? Because people put a lot of lip service, and then when you watch actions, you go, well, wait, hold on. This is a direct conflict. And not that you're going to be perfect on either end, but you have to have the ability to say, these are the qualities that I want in a woman. These are the qualities that I want in a man. And then set that standard and stop dipping back in what you already know is not working. We like to keep our toe in the water because just in case, but you already know that's not working. So why we keep going backwards?
So you're saying we should go on christianmingles.com?
No, I'm not telling you that, because you can find some devils on Christian Mingles. So I ain't even telling you got to go to the church to find them. But what I'm saying is, whatever your principles and your morals and the things that you want in life, you got to step outside the box to find them and be willing to take the risk. Step out on faith, do something different. to get, that's what they say. The definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different result. So no, I'm going to stop this ride. I'm getting off, and I'm going to decide I'd rather make a new mistake than keep repeating the old.
Yeah.
And that was my mic drop.
That is so good. Really good. And, I have a saying, and it goes for both men and women. Train boys so you don't have to repair men,
Oh, I like that.
So that can go for girls too. Train girls so you don't have to repair women, right? Okay. So we really want to take that into consideration, right? Yeah.
That's a shirt. That's a shirt, man.
That's a shirt. Yeah.
I'm gonna wear that tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow.
Train
So
these women,
again,
train these girls so they become women.
But that goes on both ends, and I think
she said it.
Right? No, I'm saying I think that's.
I'm not gonna wear trained men so they train boys so they can become men.
Repair? No, train boys so you don't have to repair men.
Men.
There it is. Train girls so you don't have to repair men.
So that they don't have to repair men.
Okay. He's going off. He's going off the rails.
All right. Lady Dawn B said, absolutely, Pache. Loving you will no longer hurt me. Y'all are talking real good tonight. We thank you, Lady Dawn B.
We thank you. We thank you. And of course, Vaughn is laughing at Mike. I can just hear Vaughn laugh in my head right now, huh? I can totally hear him just cracking himself up. But again, we thank you all. We are coming to a close. And as always, we go around and we let the panelists leave one final thought. Tonight, we were talking about Unclear is Unkind and the effects it has on mental health. And that causes depression, isolation, stress. We went through a number of things of being unkind and being clear how we should be in relationships. So if you tuned in late, you can go on back and rewind and go on YouTube and watch again. Remember, click, share, and like. Pastor Chris, there you go. Like, click, and share. Right. So again, thank you to Bravo at Sheila Network. We thank you all for always just tuning in on your Mondays nights. You can be anywhere else, but y'all choose to come in here. Once again, thank you to Mike and Pastor Chris, our faithfuls. They come on this show. They man up and they take the hits. They give their perspective. They share from male's perspective, and that's what this show is about. Balancing out, trying to figure out how women can understand men and how men can understand men can understand women. I'm sorry, y'all. And we can be very clear and kind to one. To close your eyes, Pastor Chris. Be kind to one another. So again, we're going to go around the table. We're going to go around the table real quick. Antoinette says jewels have definitely been dropped this evening, and I picked them all up. Well, thank you. Don't drop. Put them in the safe bag. Put them in your safe. So Pastor Chris, we're talking about Unclear is Unkind, mental health in relationships. What would you like to leave tonight on the panel?
When this is going to be more than one word, but when you learn clarity, you learn deliverance. I'm done.
Nice. Mike McDonald.
My father, wise man, wise gentleman, said, Mike, I can live to be 200 years old and I will never understand a woman. Said that. At the time, I concurred with him. I really believe that. But now I have this intuition, not just about women, but just about life. And I understand them.
Good.
The problem is they don't understand themselves sometimes.
I can agree with that. That's part of what we said. Some people, you have to learn yourself and understand yourself before you even attempt to be in a healthy relationship.
Right.
You have to be kind and clear to yourself about who you are before you even try to get into a healthy relationship with somebody else and you're not knowing who you are.
I was
and
just
again,
reiterating what you said in my own words.
I'm sorry. I appreciate that. I so appreciate it. So what I would say for tonight, again, unclear is unkind. Just learn to have empathy for people and sympathize for them and understand their backgrounds. If we understand a person's environment and their upbringing and where they come from and what shaped them, that will help us be a little more kind. That will help us be kind to them. It will bring clarity about that person, and it'll help us foster a healthy, clear, kind relationship with the other person. Elaine, what do you have?
I have so many thoughts, but I guess the one that I would pick right now is prepare yourself for the person you want to meet.
And Maddie, as our professional tonight, as our counselor, you are going to close it out. So, what would you like to say to us and the people in the chat and those that will watch later?
Well, I would just say to really cultivate emotional connection with your partner through respect and helping them to feel safe and be the person you would like your partner to be with you. And I think that's where I will leave it.
And that is good. That is good. That is good. Again, thank you, and thank you for being on Mondays Beyond the Mic. We are closing out. Pastor Chris, you saying something?
No, I was just saying, you said Mondays on the mic. Mike is on my
Mondays Beyond the Mic. Thank you for the clarity.
There you go.
You know, it's a family show. It's a family show. We chime in, we hear things, miscommunication. You know, it's a family show. I appreciate it. Mondays Beyond the Mic. Okay.
Might
I
be on the
love it.
mic.
I love it. I love it.
On Mondays.
What you said, Mike?
Might be on the mic on Mondays.
Oh Lord, and switch the show. That's what he waiting for. That's what he waiting for. He want to be a co-host. He want to be a co-host and stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's what he be trying to do. But we gonna close out. And again, thank you all. Hopefully, we will see you again next Monday. We're at everybody on Mondays Beyond the Mic. Let's do it.